Hi everyone, I'm Suresh and that is Sriharsha. We are going to be talking about open metadata. Um, this talk will be lightning fast because it's lightning talk. There will be a lot of slides. We'll go really fast. So open metadata is an open source project. We open sourced around 14 months ago. It's growing really fast. A lot of contributors. We are attracting, close to 2,000 community members. We have done 34 releases, and we are building features really, really fast. Right? And there are 100+ companies that have adopted open metadata for their metadata platform. Why solve metadata problem? Right? Why build an open source project? Metadata is, if data is an asset for your organization, metadata is key to unlock the value of the data. And if you look at how metadata is done today, most of the systems are fairly old, architecturally not sound. Not only metadata is not done well today, a lot of innovation that you can do around metadata metadata is not being employed for its fullest potential, right? So mainly it's discovery and governance because of GDPR pressures, but there are a lot of things that you can do for data quality, data observability. Most importantly, right, as data is being now practiced by distributed teams, there are different personas consuming the data. Collaboration among people is super important if you want to have success with data, right? That is sort of what we learned when we solved many of the problems at Uber. Now let's look at how data looks today, right? People have been throwing, organizations have been throwing tools and people at the problems with data. So you have a discovery problem, you have a catalog, quality issues, you have a separate system for quality, a separate system for observability, data management, governance. We've been throwing many narrow tools at many of these problems. There's no holistic thinking. These tools don't talk to each other, right? And many of these tools have same copy of metadata, right? There are tables, the schemas, what are the dashboards and things like that. And each of them brings some small additional specialized metadata, right? Quality might bring quality tests and quality score. Observability might have freshness. But largely, because these tools don't talk to each other, you have fragmented, duplicated, inconsistent metadata that is siloed across all these tools. Now, not only your metadata is not usable, for a user to understand what data looks like, he has to go to catalog to discover the data, jump to a quality tool to understand quality, go to observability tool to understand freshness. Users have to jump from tool to tool to tool and build the picture of data in their head. And this is frustrating, right, because of breakdown in workflows. So there are a lot of frustrated users. This was the case at Uber as well when we addressed some of these issues. So what did we do? We ended up building a metadata platform, right, that integrates with all different data sources that you have, collect all the metadata, store them in a centralized manner, make them available as APIs, right? Now, what is the benefit of this? Many of the standalone tools like quality, observability, they just end up becoming workflows. You don't need a separate standalone system, operationalize it, and all of that, right? So at Uber, we changed many of our quality and observability tools into workflows, simplified our data architecture significantly, right? Less number of people to manage, operationalize, monitor it, things like that. The other benefit is now users have a single place. They can understand all aspects of data in a single place. And I'll show you what it looks like in a lightning demo. Once you have metadata that is stored in a platform, you can build a lot more applications and innovations around it, right? That's the promise of centralizing the metadata. Second question is, why build another new metadata platform? There are so many of them that exist already in the open source, right? First thing, right, many open source metadata platforms are open sourced by these large companies, and the architecture is super complex. That works only for those large companies, not for everybody. Lot of technical choices are made that suits that organization, a lot of proprietary technology use. So you have a lot of baggage in these open source projects, right? That's why we decided not to open source, where at Uber I was working, we built a metadata platform. We ended up building it ground up because we didn't want Uber's choice of technology to affect rest of the community, right? So it's built ground up, clean, simple architecture, lowest number of dependencies, and based on open frameworks, no proprietary technologies. Second thing is, most metadata systems that are there out there today, I've built 3 of them already. This is my 3rd iteration. Their data is stored as JSON blobs and shared as JSON blobs. It's essentially glorified key value pairs. You don't know what key you get, what value you get, what is the shape of the value. None of that is specified. There is no schema for metadata. We are taking schema-first approach, and I'll show you how it looks like. And then APIs, right? Most of the APIs are afterthoughts in some of these systems. There's one API endpoint. You have to, have a programming language. You want to query the metadata, right? That is how complicated it gets. We have strongly typed API endpoints and APIs. Then, building metadata as a centralized platform, where metadata is stored as metadata graph. I'll, show how it looks like. And then, today, the way we are approaching the problems in data is adding a lot of standalone tools, right? We want to change that. Once you have a metadata platform, you can build many of these data discovery, lineage, governance, collaboration, data quality, observability as applications on top of metadata platform. So it's changing how we are building things, right, in the world of data. And then finally, you need open standard for metadata so that tools can freely share this metadata, right? Today, you have to build lots of integration and connectivity between tools. So we are working with many tool vendors to adopt these standards that we have defined. We have, within a short period of time, we have highest number of connectors to collect all the metadata from various metadata sources and store them in the platform, okay? So it's 60 plus and counting right now. We take schema-first approach. And by schema first, what I mean is, you define the schemas for metadata, and we use JSON schema for modeling our metadata schemas. The beauty of JSON schema is it has excellent tool support, because of which we generate all the code for different modules, Java code, Python, JavaScript, everything is generated from JSON schema. The advantage of this is, instead of runtime errors with your schemas not matching and data being rejected, it all becomes compile time errors, right? It also gives us, a faster development cycle. That's one of the reasons why this project moves really fast. Let's look at JSON schema, right? JSON schema defines, it's a, here is an entity, user entity, which has a set of properties, right? And these properties are defined by our type system. When you are defining each of these types, you can actually have data contracts for your metadata as constraints. Not only these constraints are documented here, they become automated validation. They become part of API. They become part of API documentation. So JSON schema as a foundation for open metadata to model schemas and define your schema contracts. Now, how do we store metadata? It is stored as a metadata graph, right? So a lot of people talk about lineage, right? Lineage is a small part of this metadata graph, which gives provenance relationship. Here you have all kinds of, there's a subset of entities here. All of them are connected with each other through relationship. We have standardized 30 plus entities, 100 plus types, using which you have a core vocabulary to build newer entities and newer metadata, and 100 plus type of relationship across all these entities. So more entities that come in, more richer your metadata graph becomes as you connect them with each other. Also, once you have metadata stored, you need APIs so that anybody can consume, especially developers, and can build lots of applications, including many automations within your company. Okay. Now, I'll do a lightning demo, and so it will be every 10 seconds a slide will change. I will also publish these slides for you. So this is now application that we have built on the metadata platform that we have. And this application does data discovery, governance, lineage, collaboration, data quality, and some observability. And you should be able to see how an integrated tool actually gives you much more coherent picture of data instead of jumping from tool to tool. Okay? So first, We have a single-click ingestion mechanism pointed to your data sources. That's where I showed the connectors. It will collect all the metadata, and all your data is organized here, right? Tables, topics, dashboards, pipelines, ML models, your users, teams, organization, tags, glossary, everything is organized here. You can start with exploring what data you have within your organization. All your data assets are here. You can discover your data through faceted search, right? Through keyword search and advanced search, right? Where you can search by tags, you can search by column name, you can search by description. You can discover your data, right? Through faceted search. Once you search the data, you can understand all the aspects of your data. Hopefully, some of you at the back can read this. I couldn't. My eye power has gotten worse. Here is the technical schema, right? And some summary of what your data is, the description, the owners, the classification, all of that information is available. So this is technical schema. Now from here, you can actually go to sampling of the data. What data is stored? How does it look, within your table? You can actually look at who is querying your data, how long the query is taking. You can cut and paste this query as a starting point if you are not well versed in SQL, right? So that is query metadata. Then you can actually look at end-to-end lineage, right? From all the way from databases to reports, dashboards. We support column-level lineage, and we also support manual lineage. You can edit this manually, right? If something is not right, or you want to add certain, further information into your lineage, right? And we version the metadata, and we keep it as organizational history. So anytime somebody adds a tag, change the description, change the owner, your schema on the database changed, everything is versioned and it is kept track of for you. You can see how your data looked like at any point in time in the history, right? Then, key thing that we are trying to do is catalogs are have not worked out, right? So collaboration is an experience that we are striving for. That starts with every change that is happening to your data coming as activity feeds. Now, these activity feeds inform you that this is how your data is changing. Somebody added a tag, the schema changed. You can turn this into conversations, right? You can mention somebody and have conversation around with the context of what has changed. So that is next level of collaboration. You can actually request descriptions instead of jumping to Jira and asking over Slack and emails and all of that. Suggest descriptions, suggest tags. This is a way to actually crowdsource more knowledge about data that is spread across and let them help you add more information to, more metadata to your data. All these requests, suggestions are tracked as tasks. Task owners are reminded on a weekly basis, and they can just resolve it by adding description right there, no jumping to a different tool, simple workflows. You can also have announcements, and somebody deprecates the data. You can have conversation around which data to move to, right? Why are you deprecating? All of these conversations that happen in emails are captured as organizational knowledge around the metadata in OpenMetadata. Let's look at governance, right? So we have hierarchical tags for classifying your data. You can track your assets that are that have certain tags. You can also search by tags. We also have glossaries where you can have glossary terms, business concepts. All of these things can be captured in a taxonomy structure. Again, you can discover data through glossary, search data through glossary terms. Finally, we have RBAC plus ABAC combined. This is how you define roles and policies to govern access control to your metadata that is captured here. So you can say, this data is not visible to somebody. These guys can go edit the tags. Those guys can edit description. All of those things are combined, can be controlled through RBAC. Let's look at data quality. What are we doing? So it starts with data profiling. You can enable data profiling for your important tables through sampling or the entire data in the table. So here is an example of how data distribution looks like for various columns, right, in your table. You can deep dive further, and you can look at how the data distribution has changed over a period of time. So this is for a column called address ID or shop ID. Now, the value of this is you can actually see suddenly you started getting more nulls. Maybe the data went out of range. All of those things you can just, through visual inspection, understand how your data is changing debug the problems that you have with data. And then further, you don't have to keep debugging. You can just add tests, right? You can add table level tests, sort of like Great Expectation, column level tests. These tests are run periodically, right? And when there are test failures, you get alerted. So you don't even have to go keep looking at how the data is changing. You get alerted. You know there is a problem, right? These tests can be grouped as test suites so that you can run them the way you want it. You can also export them and put it into your DBT pipelines or Airflow pipelines. So you can import these tests, run it as part of your pipeline. Don't even publish bad data if the test is failing, right? So you have the choice to import it as code. Finally, data observability, right? We have so much of metadata. Now, this is a way to show you how you are doing in terms of data, right? How much data do you have? What kind of data you have? How is it growing over a period of time? You can also look at how is your description coverage, right? So here is your 2% description coverage. 2.5% description coverage is where you are. Now, you can define KPI for the organization and start driving your description coverage. And the way that happens is on a periodic basis, we nudge people saying, hey, here is your description coverage. This is what your organizational goal is. Get working on descriptions. Or we can give them positive feedback saying, you're doing awesome with your description. You're way beyond your organizational KPI. So some sort of gamification, right? Not only description, ownership coverage, right? How you're tiering the data. All of those things can be captured. You can also look at how this tool itself is being used, right? Who is the top user? What is the top data set? What is the top query? All of those things are coming as observability. This is just work in progress for our community. There's a lot that we'll be doing here. I don't have any time for questions, so I'll be outside if you want to ask questions. But if you want to understand more info, oh, I have 5 minutes then. OK, I went faster than I intended to. So here is open-metadata.org. Everything is here. And everything that I showed you as demo is available as a sandbox. You can go try it with real live data on real live systems, how the system, the platform looks like, how the application experience is. So try out our sandbox. Also, if you have any questions, you can join our Slack, ask these questions, join our community, contribute, adopt the projects. The possibilities are endless. So thank you for listening to me. Hopefully that was not too fast. And if you guys have any questions, I'm here.
Well, we do appreciate you going fast. Thank you for getting all of it.
I'm trying to make up for the time lost.
Any other questions? Excellent.
Thank you for the presentation. So I have a question. So if I wanted to define a new arbitrary data type, how would I do that? Like, would I be able to do it from your base data models?
Yeah, so everything is modeled through JSON schema. Today, what we have in terms of extensibility is you can add more properties to an entity, right? So you have tables, and we are showing certain properties. You have some proprietary thing to add. You can add more fields into the existing entity. We also have functionality that we have not publicized in terms of adding new entities itself. The reason is we are striving to get to open standard for metadata. And the first fundamental problem in some of the metadata systems that we built, I built earlier is it was all key value pairs. People keep adding key values, and you don't know what that key name means, what is the value that is going to come. It runs against the goal of standardization. So we are trying to be very cautious in giving this extensibility to the community and working with the community saying, do you need this entity? It is required for 90% of the rest of the community. Why don't we build it in the community instead of building custom extensions, which will start making your metadata more and more proprietary. But there is ability to extend metadata.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Going once? Twice? All right. Dipti, you're up.
Right.
Oh, she's being mic'd up.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.